It's been just shy of a year and over 18,000 miles since we installed the Leitner ACS forge rack on the bed of our Jeep Gladiator. About 6,000 of those miles were with the rooftop tent attached, and a couple hundred of those miles were associated with off-road trails and overland camping. And I'm happy to say this rack is holding up great, just as good as the day we installed it. Matter of fact, I have yet to find a loosened fastener when doing any of my routine torque checks. And that's pretty awesome considering the additional stressors that go into wheeling off-road with additional weight and leverage of a rooftop tent attached. There's no popping, no creaking, no metal on metal sounds. This thing just remains to be solid, which is awesome. And that just reconfirms the superior strength and rigidity of this lightweight aluminum design. Another more important mention about the aluminum construction, in all that wheeling from coast to crest and everywhere in between, there isn't an ounce of rust to be found anywhere on this rack. If you live in regions that winterize the road with salt or salty air, coastal regions like I do, you know that no rust is an incredible feat. And I'm glad we invested up, buy once, cry once with an aluminum construction rather than settling for a brand of guaranteed to rust carbon steel construction. It doesn't matter how much powder coating you put on carbon steel, it is inevitable, it will rust. So with all that said, as you can see here, it's time to take the next step in our overland build, bed storage. So if you want to see how we configure our bed storage, stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to the Gator Overland channel. I'm John, and in today's video we'll be installing a major storage upgrade to the bed of our overland build. Now some of these items might look familiar, some of them might look new. They're all actually brand new designs for the 2021 year. Here we have both Gen 2 GearPOD and GearPOD XL, and new to the production line this year is the GearBAG. It is a soft shell structured EVA foam water resistant bag that allows you to organize items on the interior and then quickly stow away in either size any generation GearPOD. We'll touch more on that in a minute. Now, full disclosure, Leitner did send me these pods for research and development and review opportunity, and I couldn't be more grateful. Thanks so much, guys. But all bias aside, I plan on purchasing these items anyway, so you can guarantee that I'm going to give you a proper Gator Overland install and review. So for your viewing convenience, I have this video timestamped, allowing you to go to any point in this video by just selecting on the timestamp below. So let's get started. First up, GearPODs. The second generation GearPOD is a culmination of continued research and development from the Leitner side, along with changes based on consumer feedback. That's you guys. It's always good to hear a company is willing to at least consider, if not make changes based on consumer feedback. It wasn't necessarily that the first generation was a bad design by any means. It just means that they had a bunch of sales, went out all different kinds, all different environments, all different conditions. You start getting a little bit of customer feedback, start writing that down, start making changes. It also is an advancement in technologies, allowing for new and better materials, products, and things like that. So it's definitely Gen 2 worthy. So three of the main things that came out of the Gen 2 over the Gen 1, we have what's called the Leitner lid lifter. That is alliteration if I've heard it best, but it is a spring-assisted operation lever built onto the interior of the pod itself and allows for ease of access without having to worry about it flop down. The original design was a prop rod, which is fine, but it was probably a little cumbersome at periods of time. You had to prop it up, reach out, but this is one-handed ease of access. Same thing goes for the standard pod there. It has just one spring-assisted opening there. One of the next advancements is a new and upgraded silicone automotive seal that goes on the interior. A lot of you are probably wondering how waterproof these are. We are going to find out for ourselves, but there is statements in the nomenclature in big red letters saying if you're going to put anything expensive on the interior of this electronics wise, you definitely want to put it into a dry bag of sorts, just for your peace of mind, and probably a little CYA on Leitner side. But just go with that. If you're going to put something expensive in there, drones, laptops, Goal Zeros, any kind of power station, you might want to have a little bit of a area in between there, some kind of protection to keep it from being damaged in case there is an intrusion of water. I don't think this is going to be a big issue of water, but you know, if you get submerged and on your side and you become yellow submarine, this might not hold up to those conditions. But moving on from there, the next advancement was the actual bracketry. It is now an actual extremely strong bracket setup based on what the original one was. So you heard me talk a lot about how this rack system that we have is aluminum. This is actually structural steel. So, or it's just plate steel, but in the idea that it is going on this truck, and I live in Southeast Texas, salty Southeast Texas at that, it's going to be inevitable that it will rust. So it's something that I at least am going to pay attention to. But nothing to knock actually putting steel on your vehicle, obviously, but in this it is going to be a steel upgrade. So other than that, these are actually the material grade of the HDPE is actually changed a little bit in composition and from the original one, so a little bit more brute, a little bit thicker, I think, as far as the tolerances go from what I understand. But as far as the sizes go, they are the exact same size as the original one. And the great thing about these pods in general, it doesn't matter what vehicle you put them on. You could have it on an F-250, you could have it on a Silverado, you could have it on a Jeep Gladiator. These pods are generic across the board. That's what makes the Leitner system so great. It's modular for any kind of application. The only thing that changes is the actual width and dynamics of the actual rack itself for the vehicle application. But what we're looking at here, we have HDPE. It's the same material that kayaks are made out of. And as we mentioned earlier, I should probably keep that closed, it's waterproof, and they have these actual inserted threaded inserts already in there. And whenever you look at the interior of it, there's actually little dimples that actually correspond with each one of those threaded inserts. So you know it's not going to actually leak through those holes themselves. If you're going to get any water intrusion, it's going to be through the seal itself. That's between you and the environment. Now, as far as the structures go, I mentioned they are the same size as the original one. It's going to be 14 deep, 14 wide, and 13 inches tall. The exact same main dimensions for the big guy, the XL here. It's going to be 14 deep, 13 tall, and 48 inches wide. So as far as the capacities go, we'll start with the little guy. This one assembled with the bracketry and everything. This is actually pretty light as it is, but with the bracketry, it's approximately 20 pounds. The interior volume is going to be approximately 10.5 gallons, and the capacity itself is 65 pounds. Moving over to the big guy. This one is approximately 50 pounds assembled with the bracket, about 150 pounds capacity, and about 40 gallons of actual volume capacity. So if we're going to play with a little bit of math here, you can option to do one on one side, one on the other, so 2 of the XL pods, or moving over to this one, you could actually do 6 total, 3 on one side and 3 on the other. But if you remember, we got 150 pound capacity here, times 2 would be 300 pounds. You have 65 pounds times 6 is 390 pounds. So you can actually hold 90 more pounds doing smaller pods, but you would also have 20 less gallons. This will actually come out to about 63 gallons. This one will be about 80 gallons. So for those of you who have a bunch of little bitty spots that you need to access to, this is going to be great. For those of you who are the outdoorsmen, where you want to have your archery bows, guns, any kind of arsenal equipment you want in there, that one's ready for you to go. And it's structurally strong enough to hold that equipment, which is fantastic. The other setup here, we actually have locking mechanisms for security here. You're going to have one here, and you're going to have 2 on this XL pod. Unfortunately, the keys do not match, both of them, but the first step that you should probably do is actually document what keys. There are actually numbers corresponding to these locks here, and if you ever need an extra set, you can contact them and they will send them out. I'm actually going to probably contact them to see if they can send me a new lock that might match the keys on this one. I figured one or the other might be able to do it. So if that's the case, it's just a minor inconvenience. The cool thing is, a couple years ago, before Gator Overland was, my wife actually got me this on some occasion. I don't remember if it was a birthday or not, but it says, "Home is where you pitch it." And I thought that was pretty special. It couldn't be more fitting for the situation that we're actually doing this. So overview of this, the interior, fantastic. The bruteness. I can't wait to get these on the vehicle. I can't wait to configure things in here. I mean, my mind is just blowing with what is going to go in here. All the way down to groceries. I mean, I thought about that. I was like, yeah, might throw some apples in there. Maybe a case of cold ones to go along with that. But other than that, this is going to wrap up the GearPods. Next up are the Leitner GearBAGs. As mentioned before, they're new for the 2021 production year, and they are a soft shell structure constructed of EVA foam. They have a weather-resistant zipper that goes all the way around. And on the interior, they have a set of pockets built in on the side for you to put whatever you want to, and built into the lid, you actually have a set of zipper pockets as well. So On the outside, from what you can see, it's pretty much the shape of the interior of the pod, and you have a grab handle on the top and a grab handle on the front. What's really cool about this bag is it actually catches on one of the indentations built into the actual pod itself, and it keeps it from actually falling out when you go to use it. As you can see here, we have in the small gear pod, I have my air up, air down kit. As the way they are fit, you can see you can fit one in the standard gear pod, you can fit up to 3 in the GearPOD XL. I think it's going to be a great advantage for being able to have multiple different bags for multiple different conditions. I may go camping this weekend and have camping gear in here. I may go hunting next weekend and have one specifically for hunting. What's really cool is they offer separately a set of PVC patches that you can put, as you can see on the outside of this one, according to what's on the inside. So if you told somebody to get you the zombie apocalypse bag, I don't know why I grabbed that one, but it's the first thing that was in there, plus you could probably see it, you can actually say, get the zombie bag, because it might have cookies in it or something, I don't know. But it allows you to quickly grab bag, and then you can go store this on the shelf somewhere and fill it with whatever you want. The only thing that I've noticed so far, and I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue, but the Leitner lid lifter mentioned earlier, on the interior, you want to make sure that that's out of the way of your bag before you go to closing it. If it's actually not closing and you're forcing it, it's probably because your bag is in the way or something of that nature. So I think if you had one of these, you could still put some small bows in there, definitely other equipment, things like that, but it's definitely going to be a great piece of kit to have for versatility of accessorizing the interior of your pods. The gear bags. Next up, pod installation. Leitner does provide this highly detailed, colorful 3D rendering installation guide. It's a little bit overkill for as straightforward as this install will be. If you've installed the actual rack yourself, you know that this highly detailed information is a godsend. In the kit, you're going to get an upper bracket, a lower bracket. You're going to get 16 M6 by 12 bolts. You're going to get 6 M8 by 14 bolts and 6 corresponding track lock nuts. Along with that, you'll require in your tools is a 4mm and a 5mm, a torque wrench, and opt for a drill bit. The torque wrench settings for the 4mm will be 5 foot-pounds, and for the 5mm will be 14 foot-pounds. Let's get started. All right, first step, you're going to take your upper bracket here with the flange facing towards the hatch. You're going to place it over those nice brass inserts, and then you're going to take 6 of your M6 by 12s and get them started in there. Make sure they thread properly, especially if you're planning on zipping them down with a drill of any sort. If you do plan to use a drill, just make sure you put it at a low setting. That way you can situate it where it needs to be, and you can set it with the torque wrench later on. All right, once you get the upper bracket complete, just take your box, flip it over. As you can see, you have 10 actual pre-inserted nuts there, and you'll want to actually have the flange the same forward, just like that, and this will take the last 10 of your M6 by 12s. So once you've finished putting on your upper and lower bracket and fasten them at 5 foot-pounds, it's time for the M8 by 14 bolt and the track lock nut. And the way these install, you'll actually do the bolts through the oval like this, and you'll want the track lock nut, this actual thing right here, there's a raised edge. You want the raised edge faced out towards the hatch. And you can actually just kind of thread this on with your hand for just a second. You don't want them super tight at the moment, but just enough to where you have threads in them, because what this is going to do is actually going to go into the rail, the extrusion of the rack itself. So it should be able to line up. So the great innovation about the track lock themselves, I don't know if it's in focus, but there is a flat edge here and a flat edge here. So you'll insert it into the extrusion, and as you go to tighten, it goes flat and flat at the top and the bottom of the extrusion, making a solid foundation point, and it won't spin any further. The other great portion about it, if you need to loosen it up, it does exactly the same thing going the other way. So you don't have to worry about it slipping and loosening all on the inside like you would a washer or a nut in general. So pretty ingenious to the way these are designed. All right, once you have all 6 of these installed, 3 on top, 3 on bottom, you're ready to go. Now, the smaller pod is exactly the same. The only difference is you're gonna have 6 smaller M6 by 12, 3 on top, 3 on the bottom, and you're gonna have 4 of these track lock bolts, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. Same exact installation process. I did say that this advertised at 50 pounds, but I think it's quite a bit underneath that. But now that we have our track lock bolts in there, basically they're going to go in completely horizontal, like you see them there. And then whenever they get into that groove, when you turn them, they will actually lock out in the track. So we're going to toss this up in there just like this. If you don't have upper body strength, you may want to get a friend to help out. And there they are, at least the top and the bottom, they're already in the track, which is awesome. From here, all we got to do is tighten them down to 14 foot-pounds. All right, once you get everything installed, it actually goes together really easy. That track lock goes directly into that extrusion. Once you tighten up a little bit on the bottom, the top actually just falls into place. You just want to make sure that track lock nut is positively in the groove. And as far as that goes, we haven't tightened it down fully because I wanted to be able to slide it back and forth, but it did run into, here's something to know, that if you go all the way back, the hasp sits into the actual strut going up, so you won't be able to open it on this side, and the same goes for that. So we'll slide it all the way to the back. The measurement is exactly 4 inches. So what's half of 4? We're gonna move this thing up to 2 inches. See if I can do that. Yeah, 2 inches, and that just clears. You can put it wherever you want to, but if you're a OCD, I am not. I'm just stating it for what it is. That allows you to put it up in here and you'll have access on both sides. So it's about even. And that's that. Repeat the same thing on the other side. First thoughts after install, we are all pros. I'm still going to give it a little bit of time to do a full evaluation. That way we can see the ins and outs of everything over a long period of time. But right now, everything installed perfectly. It popped into place fast, no problem. You can tell that this thing is rigid, ready for the full amount of weight that's going to go in here at least. But I did have some it would be cool lifts. We're going to call it that. And these can't go down as cons because these are just ideas that I thought of, and it would be cool if they existed. But the same way that we mentioned the threaded inserts, it would be cool if they had them on the inside. The brackets affixed to the outside, if they had the threaded inserts on the inside, would allow you to affix panels to not only the bottom and the back side, allowing you to maybe further secure things. And this is just going to be, for an example, I'm going to toss this up in here. If this was, say, a moly panel or HDPE plastic, you would be able to affix it to the wall and the bottom, and then it would allow you to put your equipment in here, affix it to a loop in the bottom, and then secure it tightly. That way, if you're off camber, moving back and forth, incline, decline, this thing will stay secured. Have the ones that actually cinch down. I have seen that they make some polymer moly panels, and there's a company out there, 813, that I have a lot of their equipment that might work in here as well, and they affix it with some 3M adhesion tape, and it seems to work pretty good. But that's one of those it would be cool ifs. Now, if you're using the gear bags, they fit in there pretty snug, and they're already going to be organized, so you can just pop those in, no problem. But it would be cool if. Now, my second it would be cool if, these pods are made out of rotomolded plastic, which is the same thing as mentioned before as kayaks. And if you've seen kayaks on the water or on vehicles, you know that they come in a variety of colors. Well, wouldn't that be cool if the hatches alone had the option of different colors? Now, if you start steering away from the idea of motocross and overlanding and start getting into first response, law enforcement, you can have these hatches in red, yellow, blue, all the things that you can say, yeah, in the blue pod, I have a quick grab bag, so you pop it open. And that's just easily affixed. Now, I know going one color keeps it simple on their platform, but it would be cool if that was an option. Heck, even for the guys who like to put camo on the side of their vehicles, you can get that swirly camo. So it would be cool if. But other than that, we're going to do the full evaluation. So you're probably wondering how we decided to organize our gear pods. Here we have our standard gear pod, and we're going to use it for camping and toiletries, at least for the time being. As you can see here, we have an assortment of dude wipes and dude shower. They work great for a full day of off-roading, wheeling, whatnot, and freshen up a little bit. In here we have simple toiletries for my wife and I, shampoo, toothpaste, soaps, things like that. Probably wondering about the GearPOD XL. Let's go check it out. You know, it wouldn't be a full Gator Overland review if we didn't make it the 1,330 miles to the Adobe Mesa overlooking the Moab vicinity. It's been one of the most beautiful sights, and it's almost breathtaking. I can't explain it anymore. GearPOD XL. As you can see, we did not use any of the actual gear bags on the interior. We will probably do that in the future, but we had a little heavy load this trip. As you can see here, we have our recovery equipment, air down equipment, solar wires. We have our Atlas tool bag, cleaning equipment, and our hiking bags. Now I will mention, over the month and a half that I've been doing the evaluation and all the miles to get here, I did find a small bit of water, but it was after Hurricane Nicholas, and that was a monsoon by any water in Southeast Texas. And it was only a small few bit of drops in here. And I don't think it was actually a failure of the seal. If you look up here on the top drip rail area, it is very, very shallow. And I think in the process of opening it, it actually dripped down. So it was really easy to clean up, but if you're putting electronics in there, definitely put them in a dry bag. It says it in the nomenclature to be aware. So I'm letting you know that there has been a slight inundation of water, but just more of just droplets. I do have a plan to actually maybe alter this design a little bit by taking simple inner tube, cutting out a length this long, and the same thing on the other side, and splitting it down to where it splays open, and velcroing a piece on the inside and velcroing a piece here. And then I have a little bitty water trough valley, and whenever I close it, it actually pinches closed, and when I open it, I don't have to worry about water droplets coming in, and I can just push it up in the middle and it'll go out the side. But other than that, the evaluation of these pods, as you can see, super convenient to organize. And if you look in the bed pod area, it doesn't take up any space. I have my ARB here. We have dry storage. We have our water and poo station and a few other dry goods back there. But other than that, one complete kit. So happy the way it's worked out. It's made an incredible advantage on our storage for being able to come this far loaded down. I'm a little heavier than usual, but we have the rooftop tent. Roof nest has been great. I can't say enough about this setup. I'm just so happy the way that it's come out. So for the end of it, you can actually say, Leitner, thank you so much for the contribution of this. I wasn't going to let you down as far as an evaluation, and I'm so happy for the opportunity. It's been great. And make it to Utah, any of you. It's been absolutely incredible. If you enjoyed today's video, found it informative or helpful in making your decision to go with the Leitner Gen 2 gear pods or gear bags, go ahead, give us a big thumbs up. Let us know how we're doing. For a heads up on any future installs or adventures, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, notification bell. You can follow us along our journey.
Remember, we at Gator Overland encourage each and every one of you to take a daily moment to unplug and reconnect with the outdoors, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Have fun, keep it safe,
and just go.
Thanks, y'all.